Langata high-rise flats. It is these 4 properties that the Honorable Mutuse alleges that Rigathi Gachagua has acquired them after becoming deputy president in 2022 when Rigathi Gachagua died in 2017. It is the most embarrassing allegation a member of parliament can table before the National Assembly. Those properties were constructed and were in operation when the late Gachagua was alive. I take this opportunity to ask for forgiveness to my late brother, James Gachagua, that today, as your younger brother defends himself, he'll defile your privacy by distributing your will that you wrote in privacy. That your properties that you worked so hard for many years to benefit your wives and children are now a subject of discussion and are alleged to be proceeds of corruption. How unfair, well, can you be to a dead man? A man who worked so hard. Justice Esther Maina unfortunately threatened to bring action against her. I did not threaten to bring any action against Justice Maina. I did bring action against her. I was just informing the public because I'm a public officer and I have freedom of speech. I have filed a petition before the Judicial Service Commission against Justice Esther Maina in issues I felt I did not get proper justice. So I did not threaten her. I did what the law says. If you are not happy with the conduct of a judge, you file a petition before the the Judicial Service Commission, which I have done. Again, I don't want to delve before the matters because it is against sub judice. But that I have done, so I cannot be threatened. I cannot be said to threaten her. And again, I have a right as a leader, as a Kenyan, to say what I'm doing. And I did say publicly that I will bring a petition against her. I have done it. And the evidence is there. You see it. We have filed a petition and we are waiting for it to be concluded. Again, I want to emphasize that my statements were protected speech consequent to a decision by the landed judge in a matter involving my personal assets, which I disagree with and found to be wholly unfair. The matter having been concluded at last stage, my criticism of the decision was not sub judice, nor in any other manner prohibited by law. While I respond to the ruling of the landed judge, I was in absolute disagreement with it. Contrary to the assertions, the special motion, I did not forcefully threaten to bring action against the landed judge. I took legal action available to every citizen of Kenya under Article 168(2) of the Constitution, which allows any person to petition the Judicial Service Commission for the removal of any judge, and filed a legal complaint before the Judicial Service Commission in March 2024. Complaint being live before the JSC, discussion of the conduct of the land judge in the said matter here would be sub judice. Diverting materials meant for construction of Kilifi Malindi Highway to tarmac a private load to Vipingo Beach Resort. Again, I said Vipingo Beach Resort belongs to the estate of the late Governor Gachagua. The facts are as follows. King Charles III visited Kenya between 30th October 2023 and 3rd November 2024. During his state visit, one of the designated places where King Charles III was to visit was Kuritu Marine Conservancy, which shares a road with the Vipingo Beach Resort. And it's a public load, by the way, it's not a private load. I have annexed a copy of the program of the state visit to Kenya by King Charles III, marked RG, which at page 13 on item 63 and 64 shows his departure and arrival at Kuritu Marine Conservancy. As I was walking around, I slept there, I think 2-3 weeks before the arrival of the king. And as you all know, I walk every morning. And as I walked on that road, I found there was a lot of activity and tarmac was going on. I was very happy and I asked what was happening. And I was told that the king himself, the third, will be coming. So, like all other residents of that area, we are very indebted to King Charles III that this was done very speedily. Rigathi Gachagua never called anybody to do this road. In fact, I'm informed that this road is donor funded, the one to Kilifi, and there is a component of corporate social responsibility. And I have learned, after I have inquired, that these people of that road is called Takawungu Shariani Vipingo. It's off the main road, and I am made to understand that Kuritu Marine Conservancy, Vipingo Secondary School, Shariani Primary School, among other stakeholders, including a public market, applied to Kenya to be considered for corporate social responsibility. And I think the issue of the king hastened that request. And that's why I said we are grateful to the king. Again, I invite evidence to show that I influenced that road. In any case, I would like to know the member of parliament for that area, how he will vote in this motion. He should be a very happy man. If Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua occasioned a tarmac road to be done in his constituency, he should vote for me. But I didn't. And when I went there, that Shariani market, people are very happy with that road, because I walk there in the morning when I sleep there. People are very happy with that road. The secondary school there, the boys and girls are very happy. The primary schools are there. And again, contrary to the assertion by the Honorable Mutuse, it's not a private road, it's a public road. And it is serving many people, a primary school, a secondary school, a market, and a whole community, including the family of the estate of the late Governor Gachagua. We are just beneficiaries of good deeds by our government that were hastened by the arrival of His Majesty the King III. Undermining the President and the Cabinet by allegedly making contradictory public statements from the position taken by Cabinet regarding the evacuation of the people residing along Nairobi River. To start with, for the record, President William Ruto has never complained to me that have undermined him. If he has told that to Honorable Mutuse, I would like to know that he has complained to Honorable Mutuse that his deputy has undermined him. Article 147 of the Constitution provides the Deputy President shall be the principal assistant to the President and shall deputize for the President in the execution of the President's functions. Article 28, which states that every person has inherent dignity and the right to have that dignity respected and protected. Article 29C, which states that every person has the right to freedom and security of the person, which includes the right not to be subjected to any form of violence from either public or private sources. Section 152G1 of the Land Act, which states that notwithstanding any provisions to the contrary in this act or in any other written law, all eviction shall be carried out in strict accordance with the following procedures. A, be preceded by proper identification of those taking part in the eviction or demolitions. B, be preceded by the presentation of the formal authorizations for the action. C, where groups of people are involved, government officials or their representatives to be present during an eviction. D, to be carried out in a manner which respects the dignity, right to life and security of those affected, included special measures to ensure effective protection to groups and people who are vulnerable, such as women, children and elderly, and persons with disabilities. F, includes special measures to ensure that there is no arbitrary deprivation of property or possessions as a result of the eviction. G, include mechanisms to protect property and possessions left behind involuntarily from destruction. H, respect the principles of necessity and proportionality during the use of force and give the affected person the first priority to demolish and salvage their property. Critically, our Constitution provides at Section 147(2) that first, the Deputy President shall perform the functions conferred by these constitutions and any other functions of the President as the President may assign. Pursuant to Article 3 of the Constitution, I, as well as every citizen of Kenya and state of public officers, have the obligation to respect, uphold, and defend the Constitution in performing any of my functions. The national values and principles of governance contained in Article 10 of the Constitution by those state organs, public officers, and all persons, including myself as the Deputy President, wherever we make or implement public policy decisions. In relation to this matter, these national values and principles include the rule of law, democracy, and participation of the people, human dignity, equity, social justice, inclusiveness, equality, human rights, non-discrimination, and protection of the marginalized. Adherence to these principles became extremely important when we, as state officers, are contemplating legal evacuation of citizens with a duty to avoid inhuman forced evictions that would be contrary to our Constitution and international law. While campaigning with the President, and subsequently when I was sworn in as Deputy President, you can remember, I promised as a key pillar to the Kenya Kwanza government that there will be no forced and unlawful evictions and that all evictions shall be human and entail legal compensation. You remember my inauguration speech. I said never again shall this administration carry out inhuman evictions in a brutal manner as was done in the previous administration. I and my office, the Deputy President, have undertaken extensive engagement with all parties in regard to the cabinet decision on eviction, which I fully support, including the Nairobi River, which is an entity under the ODP and County Government of Nairobi. Adherence to these principles become extremely important when we as state officers are contemplating legal evacuation of citizens with a duty to avoid inhuman forced evictions that would be contrary to our Constitution and international law. Guideline number 6 of the United Nations General Assembly, guidelines for the implementation of the rights to adequate housing, prohibits forced evictions, and the state should ensure that any eviction under domestic law are fully compliant with international law. The guidelines further require meaningful engagement with communities to ensure that the rights of residents are implemented cooperatively without the need for eviction procedures or police enforcement. I have supported the implementation of cabinet directives on the eviction, safe for the fact that on being informed that each person residing at the Nairobi River was being evicted and paid only 10,000 shillings, which I and many other Kenyans felt inadequate compensation for eviction. I insisted that the government should abide by constitutional dictates and international norms while implementing any cabinet decision, including eviction, and maintain the dignity of citizens of Kenya facing evictions. My statements did not and cannot be construed to undermining the President, because the President, like me, sought to defend the very Constitution. I hope I'm very clear. Am I clear? I cannot, I will not oversee, supervise forced, brutal eviction against the people of Kenya. that I will not, and I can't. President William Ruto and I on the campaign trail gave a solemn undertaking to the people of Kenya that under our administration, that will never happen. So when I was asked to oversee brutal, inhuman eviction against innocent people without notice, without compensation, without due regard to what the Constitution says, I found it very, very difficult, and I rescued myself and allowed the CS for Interior, the Head of Public Service, the PS for Internal Security to proceed. If that is the reason why Rigathi Gachagua should be impeached as Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya and sent home for refusing to undermine the Constitution, for saying no to brutal and inhuman eviction of poor Kenyans, let it be. Undermining devolution by allegedly holding a meeting in Nairobi. Good people. I'm sure you are as embarrassed as I am. That a deputy president holding a public meeting to talk to the people of Kenya is undermining devolution. To start with, Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, in the duties spelled out by the President under Executive Order Number 1 of 2023, he has the duties to coordinate intergovernmental relations. I work with the governors. This is the home of devolution. I hold meetings with the governors every day. I chair IBEC. I cannot be accused, and I need evidence tabled that I undermined devolution. The motion alleges that on 29 September 2024, I unlawfully interfered with the running of the Nairobi City Council government by holding a public rally where I allegedly incited citizens against law directives of the county government on planning and relocation of markets. This is my response. It is not true that I incited citizens against the law directives of the county government, as alleged. I wish to clarify and point out that when I held the public rally, I merely requested the governor of Nairobi County to speak and listen to grievances which were being raised by the market traders. Videos will be produced tomorrow in the National Assembly. I, Rigathi Gachagua, asking Governor Sakaja to take time to listen to the people and listen to their grievances. The traders had sought me out to intervene and request the governor on their behalf to dialogue with them and seek a solution to their grievances with regard to the relocation of markets. Had the governor listened to these traders, they would have had no business coming looking for me. All I was saying is listen to the people. Before you relocate them, have public participation. Most of those traders have lived in Wakulima market for 40 years. They wanted to discuss with the governor what happens to us, what happens to our customers, what happens to the distances that we cover, what about the extra cost of going to the new relocation. And I think the traders were right. Requesting a meeting with an elected leader is their right. And when they requested me to go and meet them, because they were desperate and they needed somebody to hear to them, I did go and speak to them. Again, this motion alleges that on 20 September 2024, I unlawfully interfered with the running of the Nairobi City Council by inciting citizens against law directives of the county government. The leadership of Nairobi business traders approached me sometime in March 2024 at my official residence to discuss multiple issues affecting business and requested engagement in the resolution and intervention on these issues adverse to business. Consequent to this meeting, I directed that short, medium and long-term strategies be undertaken, coordinated by the Office of the Deputy President, to address the issues raised that are cross-cutting with agencies including KRA, Kenya Post Authority, Counterfeit Authority, Kenya Bureau of Standards, the National Police Service, Kenya Copyright Board, given that devolution is under the Office of the Deputy President. I was just doing my work. On 11th April 2024, the Small Traders and Government Agencies Technical Committee, coordinated by my office, held a meeting to discuss issues raised by the small traders, including Muthurwa Market, attended by ODP staff in a supportive role in keeping with the draft framework of cooperation and engagement between government, Nairobi City County, and the Nairobi business traders. Subsequent to that meeting, a meeting on 24th April 2024 between Nairobi City Council and the Nairobi small traders and numerous others, the ODP on 22nd July 2024 invited His Excellency Johnson Sakaja, among other state officers, to a meeting at ODP. Officers scheduled for 22nd July 2024 to review the draft framework of the cooperation and engagement between the small traders and the government of Kenya. On 3rd September 2024, the ODP wrote to Governor Johnson Sakaja and all other stakeholders, submitting a final combined draft of the framework for review and feedback. After all the engagement between all the parties and the draft framework, Governor Sakaja decided to arbitrarily proceed with the relocation of Muthurwa Market. That gave rise to the cry by the people. Meetings had been held, a framework had been agreed on, and as an elected leader, as Deputy President, I think going to listen to people who are in anguish, who are crying, is responsible leadership. The government that President William Ruto and I lead is a listening government, and going to listen to people cannot be an impeachable crime. I would like to know how members of parliament would want to send me home for going to listen to people who are crying that they need to be listened to. I would like to understand. Undermining devolution by allegedly holding meetings to fight alcohol. I think tomorrow will be the greatest circus. Or do I call it the theater of the absurd? That Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, undertaking duties assigned to him by the President to fight illicit brews and drugs across the country, should be impeached because by doing so, he is interfering with the devolution. I held meetings in Nyeri, attended by Governor Kahiga, Governor Waiguru, Governor Irogo Kangata, Governor Wamatangi, Governor Kiari Badilisha. I held a meeting in Chuka, attended by governors of Embu, of Tharaka Nithi, of Meru. I attended a meeting in Mombasa, attended by governors of Kwale, a representative of the governor of Mombasa, the governor of Taita Taveta, a representative of the governor of Lamu, to discuss. I held a meeting in Nakuru, nearly with all governors present, and all of us jointly, under my chairmanship, the Ministry of Interior and Governors, we agreed on how to tackle the menace of illicit brews. And we have a good story to tell. Out of those efforts, our young men who are sleeping in trenches are back home. Women are very happy, their husbands are back home and they are bringing food. In fact, some children have been born. Some have even been named refugee because of the effort that I have put in fighting illicit brews. I think the people of Kenya would be shocked to hear tonight that one of the accusations against their deputy president and why he should go home is because he led the battle to fight illicit brews and drugs that has caused havoc among our young people. Please, if Rigathi Gachagua is a problem, why don't you assign this job to somebody else? Because this job must be done. We must get our children off drugs. We must fight illicit alcohol.
And saying that you want to impeach the deputy president because fighting illicit brews and drugs is interfering with the devolution. I think this is the greatest joke of the year. Even the 281 MPs who signed this motion, most of them, because I know them, have looked for me personally to thank me for the way I have successfully led the war against drugs and illicit brews. And that is why that sham public participation should have had my responses, so that the women could hear that one of the accusations against the deputy president is that he should be sent home because he was leading the war against illicit brews and drugs. I don't know. I think there is something wrong in this country. That somebody has sat down to draft a motion to impeach the deputy president of the Republic of Kenya. And one of the grounds is that he has interfered with the devolution by leading the war to fight illicit brews and drugs. This is a height of absurdity. And Parliament will be the theater of the absurd. I would like to hear what is the nexus between fighting illicit brew and interfering with the devolution. I would like to know. I've never had any governor complain. I've never had any MCA complain. I've never had any Kenyan complain. The only Kenyans who have complained are few. They are the manufacturers who are manufacturing poison under the guise of producing alcohol. Those are the only few ones. I beg the National Assembly and the Senate, most of the National Assembly, to save face, to consider striking this ground before the motion tomorrow, because it sounds ridiculous to the people of Kenya. Again, if Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has to be sent home for fighting drugs and illicit alcohol, so be it. Sensational statements against the National Intelligence Service and its Director General and other officers. My response. In relation to this allegation, I wish to state that the National Intelligence Service holds a very critical role in ensuring the safety and security of our country. They are responsible for gathering intelligence and share it with all our law enforcement agencies to ensure that the country is safe at all times. Consequently, when the country was caught flat-footed with regard to the scope and extent of the public's dissatisfaction with the Finance Bill 2024, which degenerated in the Gen Z protests, it pointed to the failure of the National Intelligence Service in carrying out its mandate. I am persuaded that the National Intelligence Service ought to have known beforehand that the public was completely opposed to the Finance Bill, and they ought to have briefed the President before the protests began, as this would have caused a change of tact by government regarding the proposed bill, and protest which culminated in the loss of innocent lives and destruction of property could have been avoided. Hence, I express my opinion, as this is in my public media briefing in Mombasa, and my utterances were not any different from what happens to other countries when there is lapse or failure by the intelligence agencies. Many of you will recall that after September 11th terrorist attack in the US, the US intelligence agencies were massively criticized, and inquiry was even opened to investigate why the intelligence agency was not able to detect and thwart the terror attack. Under the Constitution of Kenya, the government agencies are supposed to be accountable to the Kenyan people, including the National Intelligence Service, and calling them out when there is a dereliction of duty does not amount to undermining them. In any case, the Director General of NIS is not above the law. He is a public officer. Just like the President, the Deputy President, Cabinet Ministers, he too is subject to criticism like any other public officer. In fact, I'll have videos. President William Ruto, as Deputy President, at one time criticized the then Director General of the National Intelligence Service. In another video, he heavily criticized the then Inspector General of Police for underperformance. I have learned from my boss how this job is done. It's clear. It's done. I mean, nobody, the president is criticized daily. The deputy president is criticized daily. And we take no offense. The Director General of the National Intelligence Service is not above the law. He is a public officer. He is accountable to the people of Kenya. And when one feels he has underperformed, he'll be called out. Because that is the nature of the Kenyan state. And this I learned from my boss when he was deputy president. Again, there was an issue that the president and I committed ourselves publicly that never again in our administration shall ever we allow abductions and extrajudicial killings. Despite the police keeping on misleading the president to say that there are no abductions, you all know, you have evidence on video that they have happened. And that is what I commented, and I said it is wrong. And because I'm a truthful person, I'll say what is wrong when it happens. Despite the fact that I am compelled by the principle of collective responsibility to be part and parcel of every decision made by government, that I'll continue to do so, but only those decisions that are constitutional and within the rule of law. Abductions and judicial killings are unconstitutional. I will never support them. President William Ruto has been criticized left, right, and center. I have not seen him take anybody to court for criticizing him. Why is Rigathi Gachagua being impeached for calling out the Director General of the National Intelligence Service? The Deputy President is criticized daily. The judiciary is criticized daily. The media is criticized daily, including the Star, whom I've criticized today. But that is as far as it goes. And again, despite being just the Deputy President, I enjoy a constitutional right in the Bill of Rights, freedom of speech. And if the Director General of the National Intelligence Service is aggrieved, there are mechanisms of how he can take me to court and sue me for defamation. And I'll be able to argue why I said what I said. So that is not a ground for impeachment. I mean, that is curtailing liberties, the freedom of expression, the freedom to hold public officers accountable for their actions. And I want to say finally, I think I've literally addressed all the grounds because I felt it's important for the people of Kenya to know the allegations against the Deputy President and his responses. And as you have heard, though you are not judges and you are not advocates, there is nothing here that violates the Constitution. There is no gross misconduct. There is no crime that has been committed. I'm innocent on all these charges, and I want to clarify my apology yesterday to the President did not in any way imply that I'm guilty of these charges. I'm not. This I'm not. My statement was that if there's something I've done to the president that I don't know, that probably has upset him, I ask for his forgiveness. But that was in no way an admission of this ridiculous allegations meant to overturn the will of the people. Finally, in conclusion, I want to say that overturning the will of the people is not a joke. It calls for very serious violation of the Constitution. None of these issues here meet the threshold. We'll go to Bunge tomorrow. I'll be there at 5 for 2 hours, and I'll put my case. In the unfortunate event it proceeds to the Senate, I'll be there again to prove my innocence by way of evidence. When I called this press conference, there was a lot of speculation that Rigathi Gachagua wants to resign. This is a man elected by 7.2 million Kenyans. How dare you suggest to him that he can do so without public participation? I have no intention whatsoever to resign from this job. I'll fight to the end. I have tremendous respect for our judiciary and the professional judges of the High Court, the Court of Appeal, and the Supreme Court. And in the professional manner, they have handled serious issues affecting Kenya. The impeachment of a deputy president elected by 7.2 million Kenyans is not a small matter that can hastily be decided by a few members of parliament and senators and wish it away. I'll submit myself to independent institutions to get justice. And I'm sure, I have no doubt in my mind that I'll get justice. And this impeachment will be thrown out. And I'll carry out my duties as deputy president. That is why anybody sending feelers to me to resign is a joker. And I've found a few of people using my friends to come and sweet talk to me. Please, my friends, I don't want to become enemies with you. When you are given such silly messages, don't bring them to me. I have no intention. I cannot resign. I did not give myself this job. I was given by the people of Kenya. I've done nothing wrong against the people of Kenya whatsoever. I've worked hard. I've been very loyal to my boss, President William Ruto. I have worked hard every day. And I will not be distracted. I think there's one issue I've forgotten, one ground. The issue of the shareholding, isn't it? Even you guys can remind me if there's one issue that I have not dealt with. Can somebody there give me my notes on shareholding? Yeah, I have them here. That's okay. Yeah, this is an important one.
There are several. I had not. There are a few silly ones. There's one that. I'm conniving with cartels in the tea sector to block ATDA from implementing guaranteed minimum returns that would benefit small traders. The allegation is not true. No evidence whatsoever has been adduced to substantiate this claim. As far as I know, I've successfully completed my mandate, which was assigned to me by the President, which culminated into creating synergy between people who had taken KTDA to court and suspended the operation of the Tea Act. As a result, the Tea Act now is in operation. The President never mandated me to take over the affairs of the Ministry of Agriculture. He asked me to spearhead tea reforms. I did the tea conference in Kericho, brought all the stakeholders together, and as a result, I created a synergy among all the stakeholders, and we agreed that those people who had gone to court withdraw the cases, and now the Tea Act is operational, and that will see meaningful reforms. As to claims that I have stopped the selling of tea in Mombasa, there is no evidence to that effect, and I want to call upon the Honorable Mutuse to provide that evidence. Again, in matters coffee, I was given a job by the President to initiate the coffee reforms, which I have done successfully. I held the coffee conference in Meru for 3 days in 2023. For the last 2 years, I have been working with stakeholders, including members of Parliament and the Senate, which has culminated into 2 bills, the Coffee Bill 2023 and the Cooperative Bill 2023. These 2 bills, the Coffee Bill 2023, will see the reintroduction of the Coffee Board of Kenya that will market coffee for farmers without putting profit. We have also recommended the reintroduction of the Coffee Research Foundation or the Coffee Research Institute in Roiro to work on better varieties and drought-resistant crops. Through my efforts, again, I've completed my work. The 2 bills are before the National Assembly. I call upon members of the National Assembly immediately after the impeachment process to embark on these 2 bills and see them to fruition so that farmers can enjoy the work we have done in coffee reforms. I have seen another absurd, that I have taken control of a local cooperative society in Madera constituency where I was a member of Parliament. This is false. I should be told which society by name, because I know all the societies. I know all the farmers by name. It's really ridiculous. Again, there is no evidence. There is nothing. It's just trying to spoil my name before the people of Madera who elected me as their member of Parliament. On the issues of shareholding, I think this matter has been discussed for a long time, and I think it's good tonight I put it in proper perspective. I wish to state that the allegation is equally false. None of my family members, allies, or associates are in control of any cooperative society in Madera. That one I had done. In shareholding, by virtue of the provisions of the 3rd schedule of the Political Parties Act, the constituent parties of Kenya Kwanza Coalition entered into various agreements which were deposited with the Speaker of the National Assembly and the Speaker of the Senate for purposes of Article 108 of the Constitution of Kenya. 16.2, the following are members parties of Kenya Kwanza: UDA, ANC, Ford Kenya, PAR, Farmers Party, Chama cha Kazi, Communist Party, Economic Freedom Party, the Service Party, Tujibebe wa Kenya Party, Umoja na Maendeleo Party of Kenya, and the Democratic Party of Kenya. In accordance with provisions of Clause 3E of Schedule 5 of the Political Parties Act, each of the agreements contained in a power-sharing development agenda for certain regions in Kenya. I attach here copies of the said agreement. I'll give you the Kenya Kwanza agreement so that you know when I talk about shareholding, I'm not talking about Kenyans, I'm talking about this agreement.
that was signed by President William Ruto and almost everybody else on how power will be shared. I've never talked about sharing resources. I have been talking about power sharing for people to get what they deserve in sharing power in accordance with this agreement. Like, for example, in an agreement between UDA, ANC, and Ford Kenya, the UDA would nominate the president and the deputy presidential candidates, which has happened. I got my share, although I have no share certificate. The president would guarantee the stature, dignity, financial and operational autonomy of those of the deputy president. It's in the agreement. The office of the deputy president will be allowed specific duties identified at Article 21 of the agreement. ANC will be allocated a position of prime cabinet secretary to be established within 14 days. It was given to Musalia. The office of the deputy president, Ford Kenya will be allocated the position of the Speaker of the National Assembly, which was given to Moses Wetangula. In accord with Article 2.1 of the Power Sharing Agreement, ANC and Ford Kenya would have a 30% share of national government positions. So, the Honorable Musalia Mudavadi, the Honorable Wetangula, and the people of Western, please don't condemn Rigathi Gachagua. The agreement is here, defining your share in the government. It is not me. I did not sign this document. It was signed by Musalia, Wetangula, and President William Ruto. So when I say about this share thing in terms of positions, I've never talked about resources, about development, although it is also here, is that regions bargained with the president for shares. Musalia Mudavadi and Moses Wetangula bargained for 30% of shares within the Kenya Kwanza government, although they were also supposed to give us 70% of the vote, which they did not. Nevertheless, since they gave a certain vote, they are still entitled to some share one way or another. So it is not Rigathi Gachagua who said that a government is like a company. It is the agreement of the Kenya Kwanza, which I will be tabling in the National Assembly. It is not me. It went ahead to say it. He said, ANC and Ford Kenya would have 30% share of national government positions. That is cabinet secretaries, principal secretaries, high commissioners, ambassadors, diplomatic and consular representatives, chairpersons of state corporations, directors of state corporations, chairpersons and commissions of constitutional commissions, provided the 30% share is to be shared equally between the ANC and Ford Kenya. Sasa mimi nikiambia watu wafuate share yao, makosa yangu ni gani? Iko hapa. I did not sign. They went ahead. Musalia Mudavadi and Wetangula. And they must follow these things. Because I will not follow for them, because I was not party to the Western Agreement. The agreements were with regions. So when people say I'm dividing regions, I'm simply following the Kenya Kwanza Agreement of the way it was debated. They went ahead and said, Article 22 of Sharing Agreement set out a list of priority projects which Kenya Kwanza would endeavor to fulfill in the ANC and Ford Kenya strongholds of Western Kenya between 2022 to 2027 on a priority basis. Musalia Mudavadi and Wetangula signed a package for Western Kenya. I have never had anybody call them tribalists, but they signed an agreement demanding for Western Kenya. They demanded, and it was agreed it will be done. Completion of all incomplete or stored bitumen roads. Construction of an extra 1,000 kilometers of bitumen in Western Kenya. Revival and modernization of sugar factories in Western Kenya. Establishment of new industries identified in Article 22 of the agreement. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Kenya Kwanza Agreement on shareholding. What crime has Rigathi Gachagua committed to be impeached by saying what President William Ruto appended his signature to, with Musalia Mudavadi and Wetangula, who will preside over my impeachment? What crime has this man committed? The crime of this man is just being truthful, because people do not want these things to be known. That is the problem. People have a problem that I'm a truthful man. The people of Western Kenya has now known today what their leaders signed with President William Ruto. It is upon them to demand their share as per this agreement. I did not sign this agreement. I will read the people who signed. But because I was present and I'm a truthful man, I fight for the people of Western Kenya. Power sharing agreement between Kenya Kwanza and PAR of Amason Kingi. I want to give 2 examples. Yeah? In accord with Article 8 of the agreement, PAR would be allocated the position of the Speaker of the Senate. He negotiated for himself. Let's be truthful. You brought this motion. We'll discuss. The people of Kenya must know the truth, so that if Rigathi Gachagua is being crucified for being truthful, let the people of Kenya know why he is being crucified. How can Moses Wetangula say I should be impeached because of saying people to get their shares, when he is a signatory to a share agreement with the president on what will go to Western Kenya, and then they accuse me of tribalism? They did not say anything should go to Central or Mount Kenya. They talked about Western. When I say something for Mountain, I'm a tribalist. Kingi said, position of Speaker, you are mepewa. Article 9A of the Power Sharing Agreement, PAR would nominate the candidate for appointment of 1 principal secretary when Kenya Kwanza came to power. Amepewa. For Article 9B, the Power Sharing Agreement, Kenya Kwanza and PAR would agree on what share of national government positions, cabinet secretaries, principal secretaries, high commissioners, ambassadors, diplomatic and consular representatives, chairpersons, state corporations, etc., etc. Power sharing agreement, that is a word, so that nobody should ever again in this country ever accuse me of talking of shares. It is not me. It is my boss, President William Ruto, who appended his signature with other leaders that Kenya is like a company of shares. It is not me. And he signed the agreements. Sharing Kenya is here, it's being shared. True or false? True or false? They have shared the Speaker, they have shared the Senate, they have shared Deputy President, they have shared the President. That's what I've been saying. And then I'm being told that I'm dividing the country along ethnic lines. I did not append this signature. I'm just being truthful. That is my crime. People want these things to be hidden so that they pretend to be nationalistic and say Rigathi Gachagua is tribal. But the people who append these signatures are the ones who should explain why they were signing things for their regions only. Yet they say they are national leaders. Power sharing agreement between the Kenya Kwanza coalition on one part and the Communist Party, nini. So, Service Party, at least I saw Chama Chakazi, they say the party leader should get something. Moses Kuria was given something. The Service Party of Mwangi Kujuri got nothing. You know? So, unajua sasa, ile shida iko Kenya hii ni ukora. And people not being truthful. The agreements are here. Like in a Communist Party, they have been making noise. They signed an agreement, they have not seen anybody. Yeah? So, my speeches on the shareholder issue are informed by their aforesaid power sharing covenants, which are founded on law and lessons learned from the well-known disputed 202 NAC power sharing agreement Further power sharing agreements are a feature of government formation in all democracies in the world that provide the formation of coalitions. My pronouncements on the issue, properly understood, are not only anchored in law, but entirely harmless and incapable of being construed as a basis for ethnic animosity, a danger to national cohesion, or a threat to national unity. On the contrary, coalition building has been one of the most important innovations since the disputed 2007 elections in ensuring stability, equitable sharing of political power, national cohesion, and fostering of national unity. Indeed, Kenya Kwanza's main opponent in the 2022 general election, Azimio la Umoja, One Kenya Coalition Party, was a political party consisting of 25 or so political parties who also executed a power sharing agreement as required by Schedule 3 of political parties. However, notwithstanding of the said power sharing agreements, upon election as the Deputy President of Kenya, I went out of my way, as required by the Constitution of Kenya, to serve all Kenyans regardless of their political preferences during the election or ethnic origin. I'll produce videos or all those things. Again, my decision to embrace the broad-based government following the decision of the cabinet after the Gen Z protest is that I support coalition building. And even when the Honorable Wright Odinga came, he got some shares. True or false? I mean, surely, why is Rigathi Gachagua being vilified by just being truthful? You know, it's good to be truthful. I have heard that my saying we observe this agreement is a threat to national unity. I have never been caught by the National Cohesion and Integration Committee to tell me that I have said something that can create ethnic disharmony. On the issues of one man, one vote, one shilling, I am told again that it can create tribal hatred. How? The one man, one vote, one shilling is not a formula for Mount Kenya region. Far from it. The one man, one vote, one shilling talks about equity. The gist of that formula is that all Kenyans should be treated equally. If we are giving bursary to the children of Kenya, let us agree how many children we have. If there are 30 million and we have 100 million, we divide equally and distribute to every constituency to those children. If a hospital takes care of 1,000 patients, we decide based on population what is the size of the hospital to be constructed in Roiro, where there are 800,000 people. If one borehole serves 500 people, do you construct one borehole in an area where there are 10,000 people? You need to construct more boreholes. That's all. And these populations are everywhere in Western Kenya, in Kisii, in Rift Valley. The high numbers are not just in Mount Kenya region. This is a formula, in my view, that is good for everybody. Again, it is not a law because I pronounce myself. It's just an opinion. And in our democracy, I think it's only fair to allow people to have freedom of speech and to be entitled to an opinion. There are those who talk one man, one vote, 1 kilometer, and it is their right. And we should also listen to them and consider. And all those opinions can be harnessed and people can agree which is the best formula to take care of the people of Kenya. That is all I said. I wanted to read to the people, of course, the projects that were negotiated, but I don't seem to have that page. I produce it tomorrow in Parliament. So that when they hear I am fighting, I am also fighting for them. Mine, for the Mount Kenya, and President William Ruto, we never wrote anything, because I'm a very trusting man. So is my people, as we did word of mouth. So once in a while, we may argue kidogo kidogo because there is nothing written. So sometimes it's when people say I'm blackmailing the president. But I'm simply asking, my boss, we agreed the following, can we please do it? We agreed this on that, can we do it? We agreed that the people of Mount Kenya who had been given jobs by Uhuru will not be removed without being replaced. We don't seem to be honoring that. Can we honor it? We agreed where we needed to replace somebody who has not performed, we exchange 1 for 1. Can we do it? We agreed that we need to give Mau Mau roads priority. Can we please do it? Because that is what we agreed. It's simply people being honest with each other and living true to a gentleman's agreement. That is what it is about. So I wanted to explain to the people of Kenya, I am not against any region of Kenya. I am just a crusader for honesty and for fulfilling written and unwritten agreements. That is all I am. I say if we agree on something, please let's do it. If we agreed we shall do ABCD before we are elected, let's do it. If we agreed we shall not brutally evict innocent people, please let's not do it. If we agreed that we shall create a good business environment for people to do business, please let's not do it. If we agreed there shall be no abductions and extrajudicial killings, please let's be true to the people of Kenya. That is all. So I want to thank every one of you. And because I've been in Parliament, I don't think it is necessary to have questions. I've been very, very clear on no issues, why I called this a press briefing. I've said I'll be in Parliament tomorrow. I have asked my team to try to give you all the materials so that you can also go and digest. But I think I've prosecuted my case before my employers, the people of Kenya. And I trust because the members of Parliament are also listening. They'll be fair, they'll be just, and they'll be true to their conscience and do the right thing, and not hang an innocent man without evidence. I wouldn't mind being crucified if there was evidence, but there's nothing, zero. I've explained myself to the fullest. And I think you and the people of Kenya have heard me. Let me thank all of you for giving me this time, and appreciate the media for your role to inform the people of Kenya, to educate them, to entertain them, and keep them abreast with what is going on. I want to thank you for your coverage of the short public participation on this impeachment motion, because you exposed it for what it was, and your video clips are very useful for us as we argue in courts of law. You guys are wonderful. You are good people. No wonder you are called the fourth estate. I don't know where we would go in this country without you. We would have so much impunity. We would go back to dictatorship without the media. I want to encourage you to continue to be the watchdog on behalf of the people of Kenya, to protect the Constitution with zeal, to uphold the rule of law, and to call out impunity and corruption. And I want to say, after this impeachment, I want the members of Parliament now to focus on the corruption scandals around our country. The Adani scandal, the issues in public health sector, the glaring theft of public resources. That is what Parliament should consider and take time. And that is what the people of Kenya want. And I really want to thank the media for being a very responsible watchdog on behalf of the people of Kenya. Please continue writing. Where Rigathi Gachagua has gone wrong, please write. But always accord me the right of reply. Don't condemn me unheard. And I want to thank you tonight, because you have really written accusations against me. But I am also to blame because I never called you, isn't it? Now that I have called you, I want you to request you. Every accusation, put my answer. Is that not fair? Let the people of Kenya judge. You want to ask questions? Yes. But not outside this. Okay.
Your Excellency, thank you. We appreciate you hosting us here. You have said a lot in the last more than nearly 2 hours, so I'll be very brief in relation to what you said. My colleague Sam Gituk hosted you here on the 20th of September, and you said a motion of such magnitude cannot head to Parliament without the sanctioning of the party at the parliamentary group level and without the go-ahead or the green lighting by the President. Has President William Ruto in effect sanctioned that motion now that it's in Parliament? Second, this is in relation to your statement on the 4th of January this year regarding High Court Judge Honorable Esther Maina you have mentioned. You said you accused her of corruption and you said you'll file a petition, but we never saw you there. You nonetheless said that you have filed a petition. Can you tell the Kenyan people when you have filed that petition? Maybe you can note. This one the same because, Your Excellency, you and President William Ruto hold the ultimate office that must provide answers for the Kenyan people. You therefore are open to accountability, scrutiny, and questions. When you took your oath of office, you told the Kenyan people that the country has empty coffers, that you inherited empty coffers. However, your statement is contrary to what the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics says, that at the time when you assumed office, the country had at its disposal 3.02 trillion Kenya shillings, includes revenue plus appropriations in aid. Why, Mr. Deputy President, did you make such a misleading statement in front of the Kenyan people and the world? Regarding your shareholding question, I'm sorry to hold you to account, Mr. Deputy President, that the context in which you have provided the agreement between the parties, the Kenya Kwanza parties, and your defense is different. This is what we said in Kericho County, that this government on February 2023, this government is a company, you told the people, that has its shares. There are owners who have the majority of shares and those who just have a few, while others do not have any. You invested in this government, you told the people of Kericho County, so you must reap. You sowed, you tilted, you tilled, you put manure and irrigated. Now it's your time to reap. Some few months later, the High Court quashed the appointment of more than 1,406 KRA officials. And the judgment? 700 of those officials were either from the Kalenjin or the Kikuyu community. How much of a responsibility will you take, being part of the presidency, of such gross locking out of Kenyans who qualify, who are competent, who merit, yet half of those appointments went to only 2 communities?
That's enough.
Thank you.
One, the issue of Justice Maina is sub judice. I don't want to discuss it because it's a matter before court, but I'll be able to give you the date when we filed so that you can follow the petition. As to the issues that this motion cannot find its way to the Assembly without the President nod, that is true. It can't. It has its nod. As to the issue of shareholding, again, this is a matter that I will be prosecuting. By answering your question, I'll delve into the merits and the demerits of the argument that will come up. But I also want to remind you that I did not say that it's a company. I said like a company. Like. You look at the clip, it's there. Like, I gave an example. And a company has shareholders. I've just read to you, there's 30% here for somebody. That's what I was saying. I was just being truthful without removing the agreement. Again, I am not responsible for making appointments in Kenya. I don't make any appointments. The Deputy President does not appoint anybody. You know, the appointing authority. Ladies and gentlemen, because my lawyers tell me we don't want to delve into the merits and the demerits of the presentation that I've made. Yes, Karanja.
NTV. Your Excellency, when you apologized to President Uhuru Kenyatta, you said that the words used then were out of political reasons, and that's why you are apologizing. So why should Kenyans believe you today that what you're saying is not for political reasons, for your own immediate benefit. My second question, Your Excellency, what next if this impeachment happens tomorrow? If you're impeached, what next for you? If you're not impeached, then what next in this political marriage between you and President William Ruto?
Let's say your answer is what I've discussed here are facts. It's for the people of Kenya to look at the facts and decide whether they have the necessary veracity or not. As to what I'll do or not what I'll do, let's cross the bridge when we get there. I think, good people, we have had a long night. We have had a very long night, and you need to go and file your story. I want to once more thank you very much. Good people, asanteni sana, Mungu awabariki. Tutaonana kesho. Thank you.